The PJ Flex Show is presented by Window Concepts and Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union.
Our how is everything. How you do something matters. Culture, how, next time mentality. That better be first.
The PJ Flex Show starts now.
And welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the PJ Flex Show, joined once again by the head coach of Gopher football, PJ Fleck, alongside former Gophers wide receiver Ron Johnson, KFAN's Justin Guard. I'm Pierre Nugent. The Gophers are back in the win column after a thrilling 24-17 victory over USC, getting their first Big Ten victory of the year in the process. PJ, walk us through the emotions of what it was like when the clock finally hit zero and you guys were the team that came out on top last Saturday.
It was a great win for our program. I said this in my radio show earlier, that the longer you're in this profession, nothing matters more than watching your players smile, your staff smile, the student body smile, people coming onto the field like that, and then you're sitting back in the tunnel watching that happen. Nothing's more fulfilling, because it's not about the win and that particular moment. It's about all the things that you know that they went through to overcome what they just overcame, and to get a huge win like that for our program and for all the alumni. I mean, that's with Ron. I mean, that's just those are the things that connect everybody. And it was a hard-fought game. We needed all 60 minutes to be able to play our best football and be able to win the football game, and just proud of our players, because that was the challenge to them, was play the best football for 60 minutes, and I thought they accomplished that.
And I know you're a percentages guy. Max Brosmer, 78% pass completions. As a receiver, I was proud. I was happy to see that. Seriously, you always laugh at that. It's real stuff, man. Like,
I believe it.
This is real football talk. Like, I love that. But how
I said
good?
Nothing.
You did. You laughed. How good was he though against USC? Because when you think about, like, I talked to Taylor Mays before the game, you know, and he talked about his defensive backs and what he was looking for, and the eyes of the quarterback, X, Y, and Z. And it looks like Max did everything he needed to do to attack that defense.
Yeah, we talk about throwing AA footballs, right? Appropriate, available football, right? What is the appropriate and available throw? Can you throw that consistently? And not only I thought he did a really good job with his arm, I thought he did a great job with the multiple play calls that we have at the line of scrimmage, getting us in the right play, getting us in the right protection, protecting himself, protecting the team. And then I thought he did a great job with his feet throughout the entire game, you know, pulling it when he needed to pull it. Some of the plays he makes are really, really sneaky. No pun intended there for the actual quarterback sneak, but he was, I thought he was on point, and he needed to be. You know, you go as your quarterback goes. That's one of the major responsibilities of a quarterback, and he knows that. He knew that the day he got here, and he was willing to accept that responsibility and the accountability. And it's really good for him to be able to see him have that success and see his parents after the game, and those are the exciting moments.
Over the years, you don't spend a ton of time during the game going to position groups, from what I can observe. You kind of bounce in and out. Early in the season, you might. You did go over to the offensive line, though, in the first quarter, and you talked about that in your press conference, that there was a conversation had there. What did you want to address there? Because it obviously worked. The run game really got going after that.
Yeah, I mean, if you got to do a lot of coaching as a head coach, right, on game day with your players on the sideline, you didn't prepare well enough throughout the week. There should be minimal adjustments that I'm talking about. I'm managing the game with offense, defense, special teams, and you're constantly having something to look at, evaluate, now with the iPads. But if I go over there and I'm going to say something, it's got to be worthwhile. Because I think if the head coach continues to do that, sooner or later, like, they'll tone you out if it's the same thing. They know when I come over there, there's something that I want to be able to get across. And for us, we needed to come off the ball a lot harder in the second quarter than we did the first quarter. And that was my whole message to them. And they responded to that. We played way better in the O-line our second, third, fourth quarter, flying off the ball, taking it to them. And part of that's just they're a very difficult defense. They're very Michigan-like, where they throw a lot of looks. It takes a while to really see how they're going to play you. Sometimes they play you in a way that they've never even showed yet, and you're adapting to that. But all that aside, if we just come off the ball and fire off the ball the way that we know how to do, we're going to be okay. And they started doing that in the second quarter, which I was really proud of the response.
It seems like every time Coy Parrish steps on the football field, an impact play is made. 2 weeks ago was in special teams at Michigan with big punt returns. Last Saturday against USC, forcing a fumble, game-sealing interception. Just what is it about his ability to just make the impactful plays at the right time for your team?
Well, one, it takes a very unique, true freshman to be able to do what he's doing. Two, he's not perfect. Right? I think sometimes when we see people just make plays, we just, he's going to do that all the time and he's just perfect. But he works incredibly hard. And there's going to be some ups, there's going to be some downs, there's going to be people who do everything they can to now start highlighting him and putting the focus on him. But he's such a confident individual. He's a really good talent. But he believes in himself. And that's what I loved about Antoine Winfield Jr. He was always smiling. He loved the game. He loved the highs and the lows. And when it got really hard, this kid is the same way. Tyler Nubin was the same way. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that he calls his shot. He's on the side, I'm going to end this thing. It's like Babe Ruth. But sometimes we like to just glorify that really early. He's one of the hardest workers on our team. There's going to be some things that he does really well. There's going to be some things he has to continue to work on. But he comes to practice every day to get better. And that's all I can ask of him. But he has a great belief and a great support system around him that does the same thing.
And Justin Wiley returns.
Yeah.
So you see him on the field, like during warm-ups, I love to watch certain players, and during warm-ups, he was locked in. Like you could tell he was locked in. He wasn't, rah-rah-rah, he just was kind of looking around. And when you look at the receivers, you talked about size, all that stuff, 6'6", 6'4", XY. They're a different team when he's on the field. What does Justin Wiley bring to that defense?
Well, I think he's maybe one of the best overall football players I've ever coached in 12 years. When you have a secondary member or a corner who can play nickel, who can play safety, can play corner, the old term lockdown corner, I think that's overused by coaches and fans, but he has the ability to flush anything that just happened to play before, good or bad. He's got a great knack for the football. He's an aggressive tackler. He's incredibly off the charts intelligent. So when you have all of that, and then he's an ultimate competitor and one of the greatest kids you'll ever meet, I thought like that play, like we took it to him in the tackling department. Yeah. I thought our secondary brought it to their receivers, their backs, their tight ends. I mean, there's so many plays guys are flipping over because our violence and our legal violence in the tackling category. But Ron, you're 100% right. He was locked in. He played one of his best games since he's been here. And again, didn't need to have 4 interceptions to do it, just consistently in the hip of all the receivers who are all 5-star, big-time players.
Everybody measures explosive plays differently. By anybody's measurement, you severely limited USC's offense and their explosive plays. I think on one of the explosive plays, they fumbled. Coy Parrish forced it. So what was the game plan going in against that explosive offense, and how were you able to execute it so well?
I don't think you're going to stop USC. I mean, I think that's the second lowest point total of Lincoln Riley's career, is 17 points. You're not going to just stop them. You have to limit them. So eventually you have to find a way to be able to pick your poison. And I'm not saying we were okay with them running the football, but I was more okay with them running the football than we were them throwing the football, because eventually we knew they were going to rely on the pass game. That's what the statistics showed us. That's what the data showed us. That's where years from Oklahoma to USC showed us that eventually they're going to throw it. And when they throw it, they got to throw it to us. And so we were relying a little bit more in dime packages, nickel packages, playing off a little bit more, sinking in coverages, playing man, mixing different looks. And I thought that helped our D-line get home a little bit. Then when we were able to get home, we were able to create some type of illegitimate throw, a tip ball, an interception, something like that. So we were, we were wanting them to run the ball maybe more than we wanted them to throw the ball, but we knew they were going to be able to do both, but hopefully they weren't going to be able to stick with the run, and it worked out in our advantage.
You mentioned it off the top of the show. It was a 60-minute game. We saw a great first half against Iowa. We saw a great second half against Michigan. You hadn't put together a full 60 minutes. Is this the blueprint now when you look at a game like this and to show your team, hey, for 60 full minutes, look what we can do?
Well, it's college football, right? And you look any particular week, I mean, there's upsets every single week, and there is more this week than there's ever been. You have to be ready to play your best football every week. The challenge is you have 120, 18 to 22-year-olds that are on your team that have all these other things going on in their life. They're not professionals where that's their only job, and then they have their family or a hobby. They've got class, they've got school, they've got social life, they've got this, they got that. So they've got all these things going on, and they're young, and their brains are still developing. So you have no idea what you're going to get. It's not just it's been the blueprint from day one, but I think it shows the capacity of what we can do if we do it consistently. And there are a lot of things in that game we could do way better. That's the fun part about it. And they come in every Sunday and see that. Now again, the consistency is the truest measure of performance. Can we do that, Pierre, over and over and over? That's going to be the challenge for our football team over the next 6 weeks.
And when you look at your offense scoring 25 points a game, your defense only allowing 15 points per game, but when you look at the win-loss column, of course we can look at some of the little small things that's a win. How does the offense, or what does the offense need to do, or the team as a whole, to make sure now going forward those games you're supposed to win, they're won because there's more points on the board?
Well, you got to take one play at a time. I think we're doing what we're capable of doing on offense. I think we're getting the ball to all of our playmakers in unique ways. This is a very different team than we've had in the past. There's a lot more players on this team that can touch the ball in different ways and have different skill sets that we all need to disperse and have to find a way to still have our philosophy of really down and dirty physical football. And we can do that on all sides of the ball. So I think our offense over the last few weeks has been able to marry up with our defense and play more complementary football tied with special teams over the last probably 6 quarters than we've done all year. But when we do that and we are complementary, I think we could be a really good football team.
Ron likes to mention that he played receiver. I don't know if you know
right?
that. Yeah, he wore number 3, which is what Coy Parrish also wears now. So it hasn't been retired yet, so it's available for Coy.
Ron actually was walking around campus the other day and goes, "Man, see all my jerseys around there?" I said, "Those aren't yours, man."
Yeah, it's a new guy. But something your receivers do really well, we just showed some of those screen plays, and obviously Darius and Marcus both had great games, but your receivers blocking so well, especially on those screen plays. There's a couple where I know Lemeki Brockington got called for a holding, which was a little sus, as the kids say, Ron, in my opinion. But just how important is that in this program? And I'm sure you had to block a lot back in the day, Ron, too. But your receivers not only go up and catch it, but they're selfless in the run game, it looks like, as well.
Yeah, and we're evaluating players. We want people that are really selfless and they're a complete wide receiver. And blocking is part of the game. It's part on the perimeter. It's part of the game in the perimeter. You have to be a good perimeter blocking team, I think, to be able to run the ball efficiently and effectively. And I think our wideouts do that really, really well. They're glorified, more athletic tight ends when it comes down to blocking. And I think Matt Simon does a great job of developing our guys in that category. It's a very selfless job to be able to do that. And especially when you're playing in the Big Ten, where there's a lot of games you got to go finish it off in 4 minutes. You got to be willing to do it from the start to the finish, and our guys are willing to do it.
Well, we are just getting started here on the PJ Flex Show. When we come back, we'll be joined by the starting quarterback of the Minnesota Gophers, Max Brosmer, joins us on set. When we come back, you don't want to miss that conversation on the other side of the break.
You're watching the PJ Flex Show.
You throw down?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Coach Fleck, I was like, there you go.
Welcome back, everybody, to the PJ Flex Show. Rolling right along here, and joined now by a special guest here on set, the starting quarterback of your Minnesota Gophers, Max Brosmer, joining us. Max, we appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Max, 6 games into the season. Before we go on and talk about the big victory you had against USC, I want to talk about you in particular. 6 games into the season, how do you evaluate your game and where you're at now as opposed to when the season began here at Minnesota?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I always try to grow and become the best version of myself I can every single day. And as a leader, you should be striving to do that for your team as well. And so if you kind of balance the two out, as you grow, your goal is to grow with the team as well. I think that's what our team's been doing since we got here, since we started game 1. We've battled ups and downs. We've battled adversity. This team has responded in every single way. Even when we lost, we responded during the week, and you saw kind of how our team responded this week after losing a hard one and coming back this week and working our butts off and winning a big one. And that's what defines our team.
Yeah, when the offensive line, receivers, running backs, it's all about trust. Can they trust their quarterback in the moments? In the fourth quarter, you guys were the team to come out on top. But what was it like that pushed you during that game or like in the fourth quarter to really say like, hey, this is the moment, or go to the offensive line, hey, we just need this, or to this receiver, hey, I need you, this player, Darius Taylor even. What did you do during that fourth quarter that was special?
Yeah, I think it was a matter of telling my guys that, number one, we're executing at a high level, and to continue to execute at a high level. I think we talked about playing for 60 minutes for the past 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and we've been so close. And this was the first game I felt as a team we played for 60 full minutes. And that was a message that was spread around from the leaders from the defensive side of the ball and the offensive side of the ball. I'm really proud of the leaders on the offense with Quinn and Daniel Jackson, Elijah Spencer, Ariane Sayresri, Darius Taylor, Marcus. These guys are harping 60 minutes the whole game. Even through the third and fourth quarter, through halftime, that was the one message that everyone was harping. And it was echoed throughout the whole team, and you could feel it. And I think that's what allowed our team to execute at a high level the whole game. We didn't play perfect. We'll be the first ones to tell you that. And it was a matter of how we responded, and that's what showed on Saturday.
PJ, I'm going to trust your eyes a lot more than I trust mine, but when I watch this young man play football for the past 6 weeks, week after week after week, it seems like he has gotten better and more comfortable every single week with each passing game. How does that look like to you when you're watching him progress?
Well, I think part of a developmental program is making sure that you become better from week 1 all the way through week 14. You have to, just like we want to get better from January all the way through August and September. I mean, you got to continue to get better as a football team, but you can only be as good as your players will allow themselves to be. And that's where the leadership comes into play with Max. I mean, anything he touches, he makes better. And it doesn't necessarily mean he's just going to walk in and just master it right off the bat. He's a human being like everybody else. So he's going to continue to develop. He's going to close the gap way faster than most. And if you look at from winter conditioning, being able to own the team, make it his, it was probably uncomfortable when he first got here. And within a week or two, everybody was locked in, bought into him, and was following him immediately. That's really hard to do. Spring ball, first 2 practices, he'll tell you, weren't necessarily the greatest. It took him a little bit to adapt. The next 13, spot on. You get to training camp, first training camp, everything's brand new, but he takes it with such determination. He's an elite processor of not just X and O game plan, but of life. And he understands there's always going to be a development piece to that. And then you're never, ever stopping your growth as a person and as a player. And that's what I love about him the most. The person who wants to grow and learn the most is our quarterback. And once everybody feels that, that's contagious. And then everybody else wants to do that. And that's a really true gift to have.
And in 2002, Deshaun Foster was drafted to the NFL. We were in the same draft class, got to hang out for a while in California. Had to throw that one in there. And so Deshaun and I have talked a couple times about the Gophers, and he talks about Darius Taylor. He talks about Daniel Jackson. He talks about the defense plays hard. He talks about what he's worried about. And so I love talking football guys, and you're one of them. When you look at UCLA, what do you see?
Well, I see a team that has lost to 4 teams ranked in the top 20. And if you combine the actual record of the 4 teams they've lost, it's 20-1. So I'm looking at a team that we're talking about. We played some really good teams. They played just as many good teams. So we talk about we're battle tested. They're battle tested. We're going to their place. They've had adversity. They've had success. They're deep. They played a lot of players, and they're consistent in what they do. You talk about Eric Bieniemy being the OC. That guy coached Patrick Mahomes, right? They've got a plethora of different things to get to, and a lot of things you haven't seen before. They tackle really well on defense. They swarm to the football, and they played really hard. They just played some really good teams. And in year 1, that's really difficult to do. So again, this team, we talk about us being battle tested. This team's just as battle tested. So again, we got to go play 60 minutes of football, our best football of the year, for us to be in that football game.
And you said you're going to their place. I know there was a viral moment. Did you know that UCLA was in LA? Because I know Deshaun made sure to tell you guys at the coaches meeting.
Yeah, we got the message. Everybody got the message.
I got one last one here for Max real quick. I mean, going to play in a place like the Rose Bowl, a place that really has so much tradition and historic value. What are the emotions like going to play there, and how excited is the team to get ready to go down and play UCLA?
Yeah, I think for us, it's honestly just the next one. I think it's a really cool atmosphere to be able to fly out west and go play in a different time zone and play in a historic stadium. But at the end of the day, it's just football. I think that's the message we've been talking about is don't get caught up in the extra stuff. Ultimately, it's just a football field. We're going to be playing in a different time zone where we have to adjust our bodies in a different way. But at the end of the day, we're going to stay on our own time zone, stay with our own bodies, and play our own football game. And I think at the end of the day, if we execute and do our job to the best of our ability, we're going to win a lot of games starting with this weekend. And I'm excited to see how our team responds, even after a tough-fought win over USC this weekend, because it's easy to bounce back sometimes after losing a hard one. You felt like you should have won, and then now you win a hard one. Can you keep the energy going and respond in a positive way through the next weekend?
Well, Max, we certainly appreciate you taking the time. Best of luck the rest of the season. Certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
So much more coming up on the PJ Fleck Show. When we come back, we'll talk a little more about those UCLA Bruins. Preview Saturday's big showdown at the Rose Bowl. That's next on the PJ Fleck Show.
Welcome back to the PJ Fleck Show.
Welcome back, everybody. It doesn't have my name on it. It has PJ Fleck's name on it. It is the PJ Fleck Show here.
Glad you remember that,
University
Pierre.
of Minnesota. But right now we need to talk about UCLA. PJ, there's only 3 teams in college football that have scored fewer points on a per-game basis than UCLA. How much do you have to forget about that and tell your defense, to kind of put that out the window and realize that, hey, this team can still score in bunches?
Yeah, first and foremost, for all of our viewers out there that are very consistent, I did not pick the name of the show. I don't get to pick that piece, just so everybody knows. But UCLA, listen, I'm not, I truly, they played 4 opponents that have a combined total of 20-1 in the record. And that's very well documented. That's hard to do. Ron talked about our points per game. That's not necessarily 40 points per game, but we played 3 of the top 10 defenses in the country right now. So you're playing elite teams, just like this football team. And they're probably looking at us like, hey, I can't wait to get Minnesota in here. right? I mean, that's probably what they're looking like, probably thinking. So we got to play our best football. We got to put it together for 60 minutes. And even as Max said, like, we did not play our best football against USC. We played well enough to win, to get ourselves a chance to be in the hunt at the very end, right? USC's probably sitting there, oh, we played terrible, right? We have to be able to do a lot of really good things to be able to get a win on Saturday. That is a fact. And we've got to play really clean, really tough, really physical, really legally violent Big Ten football. And, but we don't put a lot of stock in the records. We don't. I give them the facts. And those are the facts.
And you talked about that. The schedule, they lost to 4 ranked teams. You look at all that. But when you look at that team then and you say, hey, don't let their record make you think this is what they are. They're not a 1-4 team. So what are you telling your team as far as like whether it's offensive weapons or defensive guys to keep their eye on? How are you kind of preparing
You're
them for that?
eliminating all the external. You know, what you're doing is educating them on, listen, whatever you're going to hear, this is the facts. And then you're showing them data. You're showing them percentages. You're showing them analytics. You're showing them proof. Because if you want to be trusted as a head coach, you need time, consistency, proof. And that could be over a year, 2 years, 10 years, that's fine. But it's also week to week. You got 1 week to be able to prepare for a team, and you got to start somewhere, right? You got to be consistent in what you're saying in the message every single week about how we're going to prepare for this team. And then you need proof. Well, here's the proof, everybody, of what they've done and what they've done against the teams they've played. Here's how deep they are. Here's their playmakers. They're really, really dangerous and really good. We got to play our best football.
Yeah, certainly, no doubt about that. And we're all looking forward to the big showdown at the Rose Bowl when Minnesota travels to take on UCLA. Appreciate you joining us again, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Row the boat, Sky Mago Gophers.
I'll handle the sightseeing in LA, all right? You worry about the business side of things.
Got it, man. We're not worried about the homecoming dance.
I'll go check out the beach.
Don't forget about the Gopher pregame show coming up this Saturday right here on Fox 9.